Hey everyone, this is Sports Guys. I'm Sean Higgins, and this is my partner Mason Little. We're here, and we're going to catch you up on the last 2 weeks of sports because we missed a week. So let's get it started. Mason, why don't we jump in with some MLB action?
It's the catch-up episode, as Sean said. So we got a lot of MLB stuff to run through. The World Series wrapped up 2 weeks ago. Red Sox won Game 6, 6-1 for their third World Series title in the last 10 years. Their first one that they were able to capture at home since 1918. That was the big narrative of this story, was that it was Boston's first one at Fenway Park in almost a century. Boston fans went crazy. It was a great crowd there. David Ortiz batted 11 for 16 in the World Series. His .760 on-base percentage finished him second highest in series history. Needless to say, he won MVP awards. He also won his 6th Silver Slugger Award when the offseason awards were announced earlier this week. Some notable free agents you have coming up this winter from your position players: Robinson Cano, Shin-Soo Choo, Brian McCann, Jacoby Ellsbury, Carlos Beltran. Pitchers Masahiro Tanaka, Ubaldo Jimenez, and Hiroki Kuroda. Some big money going to get spent this winter. Robinson Cano, Yankees second baseman, said he was going to look for $300 million plus. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. He's definitely going to see upwards of 2 from someone. Yankees obviously really want to bring back their Gold Glove second baseman. But the Texas Rangers are also in on the mix. For Cincinnati outfielder Shin-Soo Choo, he has a tremendous on-base percentage. He always is great in the top of the order scoring runs, especially when he has a guy like Joey Votto behind him to protect him. The Detroit Tigers are rumored for Choo. Brian McCann, rumored to be going to the San Francisco Giants. They are looking at moving catcher Buster Posey over to third base. That would open a spot behind home plate for McCann. Red Sox are also in on that action. Jacoby Ellsbury, speaking of Red Sox center fielder, he's going to get $100 million plus from someone. His ability to steal bases is second to none in the American League. Seattle is rumored to be in on Ellsbury. That big park there, he can really stretch the bases in Seattle. Carlos Beltran, the aging wonder, outfielder designated hitter, probably going to have to move to DH in the American League if he gets this big deal. He's not really looking for a crazy deal, though, not looking for too many years, not looking for a lot of millions. This is a guy that just wants to win. He came 2 wins short from his first World Series win ever. We'll see if he signs back in St. Louis. On the mound, Masahiro Tanaka, the best pitcher come out of Japan since Daisuke Matsuzaka. Unlike Daisuke Matsuzaka, he's probably going to have a great career. The Yankees are rumored for him at 125 plus. Ubaldo Jimenez, shaky kind of player, high risk, high reward, had that great season for Cleveland, but kind of fell off early this year. But then in the midseason, he really brought it back together. The Toronto Blue Jays are looking at him on maybe a 1-year deal. You can't really go wrong with 1-year deals, but if anyone can, it's Ubaldo Jimenez. Hiroki Kuroda, the last one, he's a short-term answer for someone, but he is rumored to go back to Japan. We'll be waiting to see come December in the winter meetings where all these players go, but those are some of your top free agents this MLB offseason.
Yeah, a lot of hitters, a lot of firepower in that offseason
Absolutely.
lineup. So
and
we'll
some
see.
Speed. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of power shifts, I think.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see who can snag who in the coming months. Months, not monks. Anyways, I got some college action for you guys. We're going to start with some college football. Obviously, we're more than halfway through the season, and the championship picture is starting to take place. Alabama, clearly the front runner at this moment. The number 2 spot, well, it's not as easy to define. Florida State making a big case. They just wallop Miami. They wallop Clemson. There's not much they're not walloping these days. Jameis Winston, he's probably going to win the Heisman. He's playing out of his mind. Florida State, their defense, sturdy. It's just a good atmosphere down there in Tallahassee, and I think they're on their way to the national championship. Other than them, we got some teams to watch. Baylor, number 6, they're 7-0. They're coming off a bye week. Their offense is ranked 2nd, only behind Oregon, which is the most high-powered offense in the country right now. And they got 3 big games to round out the season with number 10, Oklahoma, number 15, Texas Tech, and number 18, Oklahoma State. So if they can come out a winner on all 3 of those, I don't know, maybe they can sneak into the BCS championship game if Alabama, Oregon, or Florida State falters. In the SEC, obviously the story is Alabama, but there's one other team, the only team really left that could give Alabama any sort of trouble, and that's Auburn. They're 8-1 with their 1 loss coming to number 7 LSU, and they, like I said, they might be the only team left that can stop Alabama and really cause some parity in the college football offseason. But Alabama is a juggernaut. We'll see how they do. Going to college. Oh, there's two more teams I want to mention. Number 16, Fresno State, and number 18, Northern Illinois. Two non-power conference teams, both undefeated, hoping that they'll be rewarded and get a chance to play in a BCS bowl game. Right now, it looks like they'll both need to win out the season in order to make that happen, and so we'll be keeping an eye on those teams. Going to college basketball, it's right around the corner. We have teams opening up this weekend on Monday, this weekend on Saturday, and again to Monday and Tuesday. The AP poll was released, and so the top 5 teams in the country right now are Kentucky, Michigan State, Louisville, Duke, and Kansas. Looking at Kentucky, they're coming in with the best recruiting class. They got the Harrison twins, Julius Randle, Alex Poythress is coming back, Willie Cauley-Stein is coming back. Their only problem is all that young talent is unexperienced. I mean, they only have 2 returning starters, but they have the best recruiting class in the country. So we'll see if they can work something out and mend together. Michigan State coming back with Gary Harris. They're big, they're physical. Tom Izzo, great coach. He always finds a way to win late in March. And they're in a league, the Big 12, with only 3 other ranked teams. So hopefully they'll try to survive that. Louisville, the reigning national champions. Russ Smith came back. Kevin Ware's coming back. They have Blackshear, Hancock, and Harrell all coming back to round out the rotation. It looks like Bohannon is going to be suspended for a little bit, but we'll see how they do. They lost Siva and Dieng, but they're still looking to finish out their conference and be a top 5 team throughout the year. Duke has a lot of people talking. Jabari Parker, who was the former number 1 ranked recruit in the class before Andrew Wiggins reclassified, he's going there. He's going to join forces with Suleiman and Cook and a couple other big men for Duke. They're weak up front for the big men, but they have a lot of firepower in that backcourt. And if they can make it through a very, very tough ACC with Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, and Syracuse coming in, they might end up being the number 1 team in the country. And Kansas, to round out the top 5, they got Andrew Wiggins. He's the number 1 player. People are expecting big things from him, and Kansas is going to need big things from him. He'll have help from Wayne Selden and a couple other returning starters, and of course Bill Self, great coach. The Big 12 is a tough conference in basketball with Oklahoma State creeping up right behind their backs. So we'll see what they need to do. Hopefully Wiggins and Selden can step up together and make it a good team for them. And that'll do it for college basketball.
Wiggins coming down from Canada.
Oh yeah. He's the great Canadian hope.
That's right.
Like Wayne Gretzky, but for basketball.
Well, you know, we Canadian sports fans, we Canadian basketball fans, we clung to Steve Nash for as long as we could.
Oh well, yeah.
And then the last couple years, Tristan Thompson kind of gave us a little tease,
enough to get you to hold you over.
That's right.
Like
it looks
crackers
like this
before
Wiggins
the
kid
meal.
is really gonna.
Yeah,
you know, there's all this talk about NBA teams tanking for this kid. That's how high his upside is. What do you make of that?
Well, actually, I think this is a great time to segment into our 3 up and 3 down of the week.
All right.
If you want to.
Absolutely.
And my first up, the lack of tanking. In the NBA, the Phoenix Suns and the Philadelphia 76ers were both projected to finish at the bottom of their respective conferences. However, they both started 3-2, which is better than most teams right now. And sure, the season is young, but you can see the energy that both these teams are playing with. And it's just nice to know that these GMs and these team managers, they're not tanking. They really are putting out the best they can with what they have. And, there's some injuries out there, but it's good to know that they're really trying and putting forth the effort.
For sure. Those Suns, they could do something.
Yeah, who knows?
They could win some games.
Who knows?
I was looking at their box score though. It's kind of difficult because I see that they have M. Morris scores 30-something and so many rebounds, and then his brother M. Morris has so many points and so many rebounds.
Yeah.
You got the twins from Kansas, right?
Yeah, both from Kansas.
What is it, Markieff and
Marcus?
Markieff and Marcus, twin basketball players for the Phoenix Suns, makes it difficult for box score readers like myself. My first up was from last week. As you might remember, this is the catch-up episode. Lions won last Sunday versus the Cowboys. Calvin Johnson was the up. 329 receiving yards, second most in league history. Hard to imagine who the first is. 329 yards is a great 3-game stretch for a receiver. It's a pretty good 1 game for Calvin Johnson. He is now averaging 117.3 yards per game, which is about par for him. if he keeps this up for his last 8 games down the stretch, he will finish with 1,758 yards, and he will personally own 3 of the top 10 seasons by yardage in NFL history. That's a big statement in today's NFL, where passing yards are wildly overrated as a stat for measuring good quarterbacks, but receiving yards still means something. And Calvin Johnson, head and shoulders above everybody else.
Absolutely. He's just a phenomenal talent. He could go down as the greatest ever, not including Jerry Rice.
Right.
It's going to be the conversation for the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he's just tearing it up. He's got a quarterback who will throw it to him, a system that wants to give it to him, a city that loves him. So we'll see if he can stay injury free, because he's been in a little trouble this year with that.
That's right. You missed the Green Bay game.
Yeah. My second up of the night is Michael Carter-Williams. His NBA debut happened last week, and he nearly had a quadruple double, finishing a couple steals and I think a couple rebounds away from having a quadruple double, which he would have been the first player in NBA history, and he almost was the first point guard since Oscar Robertson to come out with those sorts of stats. And again, it just speaks to the energy that this 76ers team has. And so I really like what I see from this kid. He's my early Rookie of the Year candidate.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's easy to get carried away with stuff like this, with our sensationalist mass sports media, to get carried away with a couple great performances. But this kid really looks like he's something.
Yeah. He's long, he's lean, and he likes to play basketball. So.
Absolutely. My second up, the NFL trade deadline is the worst in professional sports. Nothing ever happens. There's way more action in every other league's trade deadline. On the block for this year's deadline, you had ESPN and other major sports media conglomerates pumping out names like Jared Allen and Larry Fitzgerald, Hakeem Nicks, Jairus Byrd. No moves were made because, like I said, the NFL trade deadline is the most boring in professional sports. My up about this is that NFL GMs laid off the trigger. In today's NFL, you can retool your entire team in less than 2 years. It's not like the NFL was 15 years ago, where you have to accumulate a ton of draft picks and wait 3 or 4 years on one quarterback to finally make the transition. Young quarterbacks jump into the game faster than ever, and teams can turn around like the Colts did. They lose Peyton Manning, they win one game. They're one of the top teams in the AFC now. So you draft young, you draft a quarterback, doesn't even have to be in the first round. You look at Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, now they're the favorites to win the NFC. Big up for the NFL GMs not panicking and shipping out guys like Jared Allen and Larry Fitzgerald, when those two teams, Minnesota and Arizona, can be fixed with one quarterback just like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not the year they wanted, either of those two teams. Carson Palmer at the helm, Josh Freeman, Christian Ponder, whoever at the helm for the Vikings.
Really some lousy quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah, bad quarterbacks, and, good draft quarterbacks coming up, and there's never a shortage of good quarterbacks coming through the draft.
And,
so you just got to take your time.
It's not that there aren't busts. I mean, you look at Blaine Gabbert and guys like that, Jake Locker.
Yeah.
But it's that one good quarterback can change your entire team so drastically in today's NFL that why not hang on to your pieces and take that chance?
Yeah. My final up for the evening is John Fox being okay. He had a heart attack last weekend, and he had to get heart valve replacement surgery. And it's good to hear that everything's looking up, things should be fine. There's no word on when he'll return back to the sidelines, but that's probably for the better. He needs to take his time, relax. Another addition to this up is Kevin Ware. He had that horrific leg injury from the NCAA tournament last year. His leg broke. A lot of people thought he might not walk the same again. There wasn't really any positive things going on. They had the whole win it for Ware. But he played his first game, and 7 minutes into his first game, he hit a three-pointer. It was his first shot back. And a really emotional moment after a gruesome injury. It's good to see a young kid playing basketball again. Yeah,
great for him. Much like the John Fox, my last up is Gary Kubiak being released from the hospital on Tuesday after he collapsed at halftime of Sunday night's game. Apparently, being an NFL head coach is a very stressful job. Released from the hospital on Tuesday, visited his team today, Thursday, told the players that he missed them. He was not available to the media today for comment, and there's still no timetable for his return. Wade Phillips is the interim head coach in Texas. But great to see Gary Kubiak up, feeling great. They called it a mini stroke. It was some kind of thing that they're not comfortable calling a stroke. So good to see him released from the hospital and visiting his team.
Yep, absolutely. And you got to wonder what's going on behind these closed doors with all these coaches.
A lot of late nights looking at tape. And you got to get your sleep.
You got to get your sleep. All right, so I guess we should proceed to our downs.
Always end with the downs.
Always ending with
Let's
the downs
set
here
the
on
negative
Sports
tone
Guys.
on this catch-up program.
All right, my first down of the week is Bryn Renner. He's a UNC quarterback who's been in the system for 4 years now, and he just announced that he'll be taking season-ending surgery on his left shoulder. It's his non-throwing shoulder, so his career should be fine, but his career at UNC is over, and somewhat at a disappointing season. There's a lot of promise coming into this year after what they were able to do last year, and to see him go out like this, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth as a sports fan and as a UNC fan. So sad to see him go like this, but I think he'll land on an NFL team, backup quarterback definitely. He's got a cannon for an arm, so he just needs to heal up and be ready for the NFL.
And I guess he played too many games to go as an injury redshirt.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it's a bummer. Fan favorite Matt Molson in Long Island, playing for the New York Islanders. Great winger, played on John Tavares' line, developed a great chemistry with him. Traded from the New York Islanders to the saddest team in hockey right now, the Buffalo Sabres, for Thomas Vanek. Islanders also signed a 2014 first and a 2015 second-round pick in this deal to upgrade at the wing position, but from Matt Molson, who now has to play for the Buffalo Sabres, first of all, it was a stiff on his part. He quotes, "It's sad to leave people you care about and love behind. I think over the years I've shown my want to be part of the organization and turning around the team into being successful. I guess obviously in the long run they didn't feel the same. I guess this is what happens in pro sports. I gotta move on." His second child was born on the 10th of October, a week before he was traded. Big bummer to see a guy like that go. There are always these rental players, and his contract is up, so he'll leave Buffalo when he can. But kind of a bummer to see him leave his good friend John Tavares.
Yeah, and you never want to see that as a sports fan. A member of your favorite team getting shipped off to another team. But it's just the engine that drives the game.
For sure, and you see these upgrades happen. It's a contending team in the Islanders picking up a piece in Vanek from Buffalo that's going to make them better. But usually you don't see roster players going back to Buffalo, and so that's the odd thing.
Yeah,
here.
it is a little odd.
You have an all-star in Matt Molson who's now got to play out the rest of his season in Buffalo.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll hope that he does well, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah. My second down of the night is David Wilson being placed on the IR. He's a running back, came out of Virginia Tech. He plays for the Giants. He's been part of their rotation this year. It's been found that he has a herniated disc and that his spinal column is misaligned and more narrow than it was before. And I'm not a doctor. I don't really know what that means, but it's a scary injury for sure. His career may be in jeopardy, so we're just hoping for the best for David Wilson.
I don't think it takes a doctor to tell you that a narrowed spinal column sounds real bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And this is the worst nightmare for the NFL. With all the injuries they have and life-threatening, and it's tough to see a player go down like this, and hopefully everything's fine and he can get it worked out, and
for sure.
His livelihood can stay intact.
For sure. Be hoping for the best for him. My second down, also in the National Football League, you have probably heard by now this report of bullying in Miami. The Miami Dolphins offensive lineman Richie Incognito was suspended indefinitely for the team for conduct detrimental to the team. After teammate Jonathan Martin took a leave of absence from the team, he is now seeking therapeutic help in his Northern California home after he filed a report with the NFLPA, a grievance against the league, saying that he was not in a safe work environment. Incognito and others bullying him. Some reports of Martin being forced to foot $15,000 bills to Vegas, which he was not a part of. Some racial slurs in voicemails acquired by the NFL and made public from Incognito to Martin, death threats and things like that. This has been widely covered in sports. There is no point in talking about this for 2 hours, as some notable media members are, but this is a big problem in the NFL locker room today. It's such a masculinized sport that you have these instances where teammates are being told to toughen up. Reports come from mass media right now that say Coach Joe Philbin went to Richie Incognito and told him to toughen up Jonathan Martin. And if that comes out as true, as the case in the NFL has commissioned might tell us, then Joe Philbin will be fired. Jeff Ireland, Miami GM, also in trouble here. Big mess in Miami going on right now, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the NFL just can't take this at all. Can't take it lightly. I mean, they got to look out for the players, or else the players' union is going to be all over them.
And there's toughening up, and then there's playful jabs, and then there's racial slurs
Yeah.
and death threats.
And
This is clearly just crossing the line here. And
absolutely.
And what's worse is you get this culture of victim blaming in ESPN now. You get all these Tony
is he telling the
Siragusa,
truth?
Mike Golick, saying
is he too weak?
He should have just stood up to Richie Incognito.
Yeah.
And it's a shame too, because to invite any more victim blaming into our mass media is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to point out the irony that his name is Incognito and he's getting in trouble.
He is found out now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, my final down for the night is ACC football. Florida State, Miami, Clemson, all these teams ranked in the top 25, and they're looking good, except against Florida State. Florida State has absolutely just ruined any team that's come in its path for ACC, no matter who they are. And you just go into these games, like Florida State Clemson game, billed as this big game. Florida State drops like 50 points on them, and it's just not even a game after halftime. Miami, almost the same thing. It starts as a good game, and then Florida State just wallops them. So I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little nitpicky with my downs, which I guess isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You just want to see more from the ACC opponents for Florida State.
You'd like it to not be so top-heavy, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
You'd like there to be some competition.
Yeah, some
especially
parity.
That FSU-Miami game, that was highly billed.
Oh,
That was a
yeah.
nationally televised game. And the ACC put out a terrible product.
Absolutely. I mean, it was good for a while, but Florida State just took over.
Yeah.
So I guess this is when you would like to talk about some hockey, huh?
Yeah, we'll skip past my third down.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
No.
Do your third down.
My third down.
I forgot that I went first.
My
Go
third
ahead.
down. Sticking with some other sticky social rights issues here. Third and final down is Washington owner Dan Snyder. In early October, he wrote an open letter to fans citing reasons why he wouldn't change the team's name from Redskins to something slightly less offensive. There were 3 representatives from the National Football League, not including Commissioner Roger Goodell, that met with the Oneida Nation representatives in New York. Snyder and Goodell met the day before. Snyder reiterated that he has no plans to change the team's name. Goodell said he would be open to a team change, but we might have to wait for Dan Snyder to die before this is corrected. There's no beating around it. The team name and the logo are culturally appropriating and offensive. Mass media has finally gotten around to giving the issue enough traction. Prominent reporters like Peter King refraining from using the team name Redskins and instead just using Washington in their reports. This kind of movement will happen, but only when Dan Snyder dies will we see this team name changed, I think.
Yeah, me too. I don't know why he's being so rigid again. It's not like it's going to hurt his marketing. Fans of the Washington Redskins will be fans of the Washington team.
If you change the team name, that's that much more merchandise you can sell, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. You have to sell all the stuff that they have now is classic. Now you have to sell the new stuff.
Think of the offended fans you might win back.
Yeah, absolutely. So now it's time for you to talk about some hockey.
Let's move on to some hockey. Youngsters, big story this year. Youngsters in the NHL, Morgan Riley, Matt Dumba, Nathan McKinnon, Alexander Barkov, Valeri Nichushkin, Elias Lindholm, Sean Monahan, Rasmus Ristolainen, Nikita Zadorov, Seth Jones, Thomas Hertl. Just a few of the 21 teens that have appeared in one game this year. 15 teenagers appeared in one game last year, so already in November, a month into the season, we're already 6 more teenagers having appeared in one game. Valeri Nichushkin, winger for the Dallas Stars, selected 10th overall in 2013's draft, became the 7th 18-year-old to score earlier this week. The last time 7 18-year-olds scored a goal in a single season was 1993-1994. Good for the youngsters, but this also makes for some interesting futures in the National Hockey League, some great young talent there. Carolina Hurricanes with one of their own in Ryan Murphy, a defenseman. They got an emotional win over the Flyers earlier this week. Eric Stahl to Jordan Stahl, brother to brother, tied the game with under a minute left. In the only game the Carolina Hurricanes had on their schedule this year that was nationally televised, they tied the game, and then Manny Malhotra won it with a game winner in overtime in Raleigh. That was Manny Malhotra's first goal in 19 months. As a Vancouver Canuck, he took a puck to the eye on March 16, 2011, lost a ton of vision in his left eye. He never got it full back, left the Canucks after an emotional goodbye in Vancouver. No team was willing to take a chance on him until the Carolina Hurricanes AHL affiliate Charlotte Checkers signed him to a 1-year deal 2 weeks ago. Injuries to the Canes roster gave him a permanent spot on the NHL roster. Signs a 1-year deal. He's a great fourth-line center. He wins draws. He plays great defensively. Never been great offensively, but a great neutral zone back check in Tuesday's game against Philadelphia. Gave him his first goal in 19 months. That was a great story in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, wow, what a great story. Yeah. That injury, I think I remember seeing something about it.
It was scary. It was
pretty scary.
And,
you know,
this is just even aside from concussions derailing a player, like pucks to the face and sticks to the face and stuff like this have really led to a national discussion in hockey cultures about the mandatory addition of visors to players. They grandfathered in the CBA in their last lockout, 2012, that players coming in now have to wear a visor, but if you had not been wearing a visor already, you don't have to. We're probably going to see a 99% visor-wearing NHL by the year 2017. And it's pucks to the face like this that are going to keep, those kinds of injuries are going to be out. Yeah. And, these kinds of things where you never get your full vision back, these are injuries that affect you long into your career after your career's over in NHL. Like his life when he's a 55-year-old man. So good to see a guy like Manny Malhotra get a game winner on Tuesday.
And how about that young talent in the NHL? It's looking good. Who do you say you're most impressed by?
Nathan MacKinnon, first overall pick in 2013 for the Colorado Avalanche, and that's partly because the Avalanche have seen a worst of first kind of season under Patrick Waugh. This kid has otherworldly speed from Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, not unlike Sid Crosby, as I've mentioned on a previous edition of Sports Guys.
Okay. I'll get us into some NBA action now. The season just started. Most teams played about 5 games, and it looks way different than what anybody thought the season was going to look like so far. For example, in the Eastern Conference, you have Philly at number 2, Charlotte at number 4, Detroit at number 7, and Milwaukee at number 8. Meanwhile, Chicago, New York, Brooklyn, and Cleveland are all out of the top 8, meaning if the playoffs started today, even though that's a preposterous statement, they would be out. In the Western, Denver is 0-3, the Lakers are out, and Memphis is out. Phoenix 3-2, they're at number 8, and Golden State at number they're 4-1, and they're tied at first with San Antonio. So there's a lot of parity so far in the NBA, and it's good to see. Right now, the hottest team has to be Indiana. They're 5-0, the only undefeated team left. They had a big win against the Bulls the other night. Right now, they're being carried by their defense, which is what Frank Vogel wants. They have a good, strong defensive leader in Hibbert, who's leading the league with 5.2 blocks a game, which is just astonishing. So, if he can keep that up, he'll have one of the greatest seasons of all time. Another great storyline for the Pacers is Paul George. He is averaging 25.8 points a game. That puts him third in the NBA behind KD and Kevin Love. And to round out the top 5 of the scoring, you got LeBron James at 25.6. And James Harden at 25.2. So PG really coming through early on in the season. Some other things, just don't be worried if you're a fan of a sports team, of an NBA team that's not doing so hot. It's early in the season. Teams get off the slow starts because of chemistry issues, and I'm sure that by the end of the season, everything will be sorted out and be ready to go. So
Roy Hibbert said that he expects to win Defensive Player of the Year, and that he thinks Paul George will win MVP. Now, I'm not one for gossip or trash talk. I don't think that really gets its. I don't think that deserves coverage. But those are some maybe true statements.
Well, I think they're bold, but right now, from what we've seen in the league, it's a possibility. If Paul George keeps this up and the Pacers finish with an amazing record and number 1 in the East, like upwards of 65 wins, then I think there's some serious, and if Paul George keeps these numbers, there's some serious contention. Maybe he should be the MVP. And obviously, Hibbert with 5.2 blocks a game, something with like 10 or 11 rebounds. They're the number 1 defense.
Yeah.
84 points against the Pacers. They haven't played the top talent of the NBA, but even that alone, 5.2 blocks a game is just great.
Well, when they did last postseason, they pushed the Heat.
Oh, yeah. They pushed the Heat to the brink, and I think that they're going to give him even more trouble now.
Yeah, and Paul George is a young kid. He's still getting better.
Oh yeah. He's just climbing.
If he gave me 5 picks to start my team, he would probably be number 3. I think there are only 2 players in the NBA I'd take ahead of Paul George, and they're probably LeBron and Durant.
LeBron and Durant, absolutely. So he's a great young talent right now.
George with a lot of upside. National Football League, tough to cover 2 weeks in one show, but it always seems that when we're pushed for NFL subjects, we can always rely on the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs to get us through the program. Denver Broncos, even though they had a bye this past week, 153 first downs through the air. Second most is San Diego's 131. That passing attack is something ridiculous. They have 343 points through 8 games. Second, listen up, Dallas with 257. First place 343, second 257. The record for points set in a season is 589, set in 2007 by the New England Patriots. Denver is on pace for 686, almost 100 points more than the record. Their average points per game in the National Football League is 23.2 points per game, average throughout all 32 teams, except the Denver Broncos, who have been scoring 42.9. That's nearly double. When in other sports have we ever seen any offense in any league double the average output? You don't see NHL teams averaging 5 goals a night. You don't see MLB teams averaging 9 runs a game, and you don't see NBA squads putting up 185 every night. This is a historically great offense, not just relative to the National Football League, but to the history of American team sports. And if you're not watching it, you're just missing out.
Absolutely. Peyton Manning is at the top of his game right now. He's got some great assets, a great scheme in Denver, defense that needs to get better if they want to win close games.
Yes.
Because there are some teams that are gonna push them.
Yes.
But yeah, Peyton Manning. I think they're gonna go where Peyton Manning takes them.
Yes.
Honestly, and he's just throwing the ball. He's having fun out there.
Yes.
You know, signal calling, doing his thing. It's really nice to see.
And that Week 11 matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs got bumped up. So that is Sunday night, 8:30 p.m., not this upcoming Sunday, but the Sunday after on NBC. Tamba Hali on that Chiefs defense, 3 non-offensive touchdowns. No one in the NFL has more, and that includes returns. This is an outside linebacker, so obviously he's not returning kicks. 9 sacks for Hawley. Justin Houston on the opposite side has 11. No 2 players in the NFL have 20 sacks except for those 2. Sean Smith, cornerback, had a 100-yard pick 6 in Sunday's game against the Buffalo Bills. 9-0 Kansas City Chiefs have allowed 53.5% of their passes to be completed.
Wow.
So that matchup against the historically great Denver offense is really going to be something.
Absolutely.
I think Manning's going to pick them apart, but this is a great defense against a great offense, and there's no reason that this shouldn't have been this Sunday night game.
And I know it could be one of those unstoppable force, immovable object sort of games. And I mean, I'm hoping to see some high flying action.
And what's great is because they're in the same division, this is just round 1.
Round 1, maybe round 1 of 3. If we're lucky.
That's right. That's right.
And the AFC is kind of top heavy with Denver, the Chiefs, kind of everybody else.
Jaguars.
And then the Jaguars.
They have got the best and the worst in the National Football League. NFC is kind of middle.
NFC is kind of middle.
Yeah.
That wild card race in the NFC, it's going to be tight.
Yeah.
You got the Lions. You have the loser of the Cowboys, Eagles.
Yeah.
Whoever
Well, the
doesn't make
loser
it
of
in the East.
also in the North, the Packers or the Bears.
Yeah, or the Packers
so
and the Bears.
So the North could send 2.
The Panthers or
Panthers are in it after winning a couple in a row.
after winning a couple in a row. So I mean, who knows?
And then
it's
Niners
wide
and
open.
Seahawks out west.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wide open.
Yeah.
The top 2 teams in each of the conferences could really, or each of the divisions could really come in and just get hot in the end of the season.
For sure.
Make a deep playoff run.
For sure. Gun to your head, Super Bowl right now.
Right now, who is it?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the Denver Broncos versus the Seahawks, Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, that was the sexy pick in the preseason. It hasn't looked like it's going to change. One note about Kansas City: as great as their defense has been, they finished 2-14 last season, so that sets them up for kind of a cupcake squad this year on their schedule until they play the Broncos. And I think that's going to be when we get to see if Kansas City's for real with the contenders or just a great defense, just bashing mediocre offense.
While their defense is great, their offense needs to take some strides. I mean, Jamal Charles is great running back. Dwayne Bowe, great receiver. Alex Smith, he's a game controller, game manager. So if they can put points on the board, so can their defense.
No team has punted more than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah,
and that's that problem.
Absolutely, and Andy Reid, I'm sure, is on it.
That's right.
I'm sure he's on it. Well, I guess.
Well, having no highlights or no games to look forward to aside from that one 2 weeks from now, this concludes our catch-up episode of the Sports Guys.
Okay, and well, I'm Sean Higgins.
I'm Mason Little.
You guys have yourself a good night. That's a wrap!